Hey everybody, it's Andrew Kordek with iPost and Email Never Sleeps. Welcome to another edition, and man, oh man, I got a treat for everybody today. Look, the topic is we're going to talk about a marketing manager that has a lot of hats, right? What should they focus on to get the most out of email marketing if they really have no time for sophistication? But what I said is we're in for a treat because today I've got a really special guest, Jay Schwedelson of Outcome Media and Guru Conference. Jay and I have known each other for a while, but Jay, introduce yourself before we jump into this topic real quick.
Awesome to be here. Thanks for having me, Andrew. Yeah, I have a conference. It's free. It's a giant email event. It's virtual. You should check it out. GuruConference.com. Andrew speaks. We got all sorts of craziness going on. So if you want to learn anything about email, GuruConference.com. And I love being here. I just want people to get their emails open and engage. And you know what? There's little things you could do that have a big difference, and that's what we're going to hit on, I think.
Yeah, let's hit on it. And it's really amazing to talk to somebody like you, right, who sees things obviously in different perspectives and, and so forth. So let's talk about, like, our crowd today is this person that's probably struggling in many different areas, right? Yes. And we as marketers sometimes talk about the sophistication of install a CDP and AI and all this kind of stuff. And sometimes that's just too much. So what would you say, what should somebody focus on, right? Yeah. Just to kind of keep pace, like what's one of your burning things that you have in your head? Because I've got a few.
Yeah, I think that, listen, is my list terrible? I need hygiene. I don't have good deliverability, and my platform sucks and all this stuff. At the end of the day, or I'm going to spend all this time on new creative and I got an agency or I have no content. Listen, let's talk about your subject line. If you don't get your email open, who cares? Who cares what you're promoting? Who cares what your creative looks like? Who cares about anything? That subject line, if you don't have time to go to the bathroom, right? You have time to come up with a subject line. And that subject line can, if you do a few things, it can radically change your engagement. So I do focus a lot on the subject line or the friendly from or the pre-header, even though it seems like it's, lame and pathetic, it's what makes the difference in my mind.
Yeah. But also bear in mind too, like, don't wait till the last second to do your subject line or your pre-header. A lot of marketers tend to say, gosh, that's the last thing. I spent all this time doing other stuff. What subject line should we use? What subject line should we test?
Absolutely.
Piggybacking off of that, Jay, one of the things that I wrote down, and I have it written right here, and it says clean house. And what I mean by cleaning house is take a look at your program from a high level. What is it that has been legacy? You've probably inherited this program, whether you've been there a year or 3 years. What is it about the program that you would want to change that's a pain in the butt? Is it a sign-up process? Is it list? Is it subject lines? Is it create? I mean, there's a whole host of stuff. I have this philosophy that before you invite more people to your party, in other words, get more people to sign up or get people more engaged, you got to clean your house before you do anything else. So take a look. Don't focus on everything. Focus on one or two things that that can make a difference. And it might be changing the way you write subject lines, changing the friendly froms, changing specific things. But focus on one or two things in the first 6 months, and then focus on another two things in the 6 months. Don't feel like you have to do everything all up front. So clean your house before you do anything else.
Yeah, and I would also piggyback on that, and I could not agree more. Find out what the things in your organizations that's totally taboo, that you're like, okay, what are we not allowed to do? We're not allowed to put brackets in the subject line and say, webinar or something. We're not allowed to put these words in the subject line because people think it's a spam trigger word, or we can't do this with the call to action button. Whatever they say is taboo, that's the stuff I would try to push forward and actually try to get changed. Because a lot of times the taboo things in email are relics from 10 years ago when things were different, when what you were allowed to do was different, when why you went to the junk folder was different. So I would find out those never cans and really see maybe those are the things that are actually holding back the program, and couple that with, prioritization. And I think you'll make a big difference.
Going off of that too, right? We keep saying piggybacking, but it's true. But think about this. Think about how the world has changed over the last 10 years. One of the things I think when you talk about stuff that's taboo, brackets, or the way you do things, I think we've come around that marketers should speak a little bit more like a human in their emails. And so that cuts to the tone, human speak. Look at your audience. Clearly, if you're targeting IT people in a SaaS-based software versus somebody that's buying shoes or subscriptions or whatever organization you are, think about the audience and speak not at them, but with them in this human speak. And that may involve taboo things. That may involve not always humor, but so that they can be related, right? And not feel like you're a marketer all the time. I read this one thing, I can't remember the quote. I can't remember the person that did this quote, so I apologize. But they said, if you spoke to somebody normally, like a marketer would speak to you, you should punch them in the face, right? And so I think about that statement all the time. So maybe something else too is take one of those taboo items and maybe say, maybe it's different of how we should speak to them or with them in an email or in a subject line or in something else. So what else you got?
Yeah,
because I got
but also to that, in that same vein, you have to take a temperature on how people are interacting with things, right? So you want to speak to them like a human, but you have to realize them as a human. So for example, let's say your offer is a webinar or an ebook, okay, or God forbid, a white paper. These are pieces of content that when you say those words, they feel like work. You're like, I don't have time for a webinar. I don't have time for an ebook. I don't have time to read a white paper. So when you go out and you promote them, as a marketer, you need to say to yourself, what am I going to do? And I know this is the content I have, but nobody gives a crap about this because they don't have time. And what we see, for example, is promoting the topic of what you're talking about. Let's say in the subject line, right? If I was going to promote something to HR professionals and it was going to be a webinar, I wouldn't put in the subject line anymore, webinar : the new trends for HR professionals. Because the second you say webinar, they're like, oh, boring, I don't have time for that. It sounds terrible. So promoting the topic, just saying, the latest trends for HR professionals, they open it up. Oh, it's a webinar? Fine, I'll check it out. So understanding how humanity is and what we're interacting with, and not leading with ebook, not leading with white paper. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to know it. They want to know about the topic, and then you get them involved. So it's really like, to your point, it's business to human, not business to consumer, not business to business. We're marketing to human.
Right. Another thing I wanted to just mention about, like, if you're struggling and trying to know what you have to do, right, is we use these words, best practices. And I'm sure, Jay, you've been asked the question, what are best practices around X or Y and stuff? And I think that there's these things that we call fundamental best practices, like, list hygiene and making sure you're authenticated and stuff like that. But the best practices that you should follow are the ones that you're creating for yourself, number one.
Absolutely.
And number two, when you're learning about email and you're learning about what best practices or how to write good subject lines or how to do specific things, don't just Google something out there and expect that you're going to get this, sound advice. Right, from everybody.
Totally.
Find and latch onto somebody or a group or an organization that writes or puts out content that you can relate to. So don't feel like you got to go span the globe and trying to find the right best practice for your email program. I think that's really important because I get that question all the time. And then I hate asking the question back, like, how do you define a best practice?
I have to tell you, when I get the question, what is the industry average, in the automotive industry for click-throughs, I want to punch my phone or whatever I have, because I tell the people, it doesn't matter. What matters is you're like a swimmer or a runner when you do email. Okay, you have to just keep trying to beat yourself. Right? It's so important to benchmark yourself. And when you benchmark your email performance, you must break out the types of emails, right? What is your engagement on your newsletter? Opens, clicks, replies, unsubscribes, bounces, all that. What is it on your offer emails? What's it on your transactional emails? Break out these groups, benchmark yourself. And every time you hit send, you want to be testing, you want to improve, right? You're trying to beat yourself. When you chase industry averages, you're chasing other brands, other products, a lot of garbage nonsense metrics. You have to focus on your metrics. That's what matters, not this other horse crap.
Yeah, and it really is. And I know it's frustrating because the C-level person wants to know how well are they doing. It's a vanity sort of thing, but throw it out the window, right? And I try to nicely say, throw it out the window and then say, but if I had to guess, it would be between X and X. right?
Right.
Because I want to satisfy it. One
Yeah.
other thing I want to talk about, and I'm curious as what you think, as somebody that has in the past and sometimes currently wears many hats, right? I tend to want to do a checklist and try to
Mhm.
prioritize everything. But then I stop and ask myself, what is the most impactful thing? When I say you're new to a position, especially in email marketing, that could be within the first 2 years of you taking over a program. And the one thing I've always, and I will continue to post and talk about this, is experience. The sign up experience, the early intervention, the midterm, the late term. What is the experience that your average subscriber is getting? And what I mean by that is when they sign up, how many emails do they get versus how much did you promise? Are you telling them what they should be getting, when they should be getting it, right? Because I still have no idea why brands are afraid or companies are afraid of saying, you're going to get this email, Jay, on Thursdays and on Saturdays, right?
Yes.
And setting that expectation and or setting that sign-up experience to be a pleasant experience, not just something that's in 4-point font at the bottom of the site, sign up and you don't really know what's happening. Experience does matter. But if you had to place your bets, right, line it up as to what you think is going to be the most profitable on the other end, however you define profit, right? In order for you to focus on. And there's so much to focus on.
Sure.
I'm curious
Sure.
what you thought of the sign-up experience or the experience in general. Do you think brands miss the mark on that or what?
I think the thing that we see a lot, which always boggles my mind, is that everyone's so excited to get the email out, to get people to do the thing, whatever they're promoting, and then they have no plan for after they fill out the form, sign up, download, register, whatever. It's like sometimes these people, these contacts sit in a file somewhere. They sit waiting for the next plan. And what I would say is before you have the greatest creative and you do all these wonderful things, imagine the outcome. Okay, great, this happened. What are you doing with those? Are you ready at that moment? Are they going to get the email? Are they going to get the thing? Is it going to go to your pipeline? Is the sales guy going to call? Make sure that's lock and loaded. Okay, because it is an epic, not only is it a waste of time and money, but you only get so many shots, right? Somebody's not going to reply again. They're not going to respond again. They're like, I responded, nothing happened, like, hello, right? They're not going to do it again because you're a jackass. To be ready for the actual outcome that you're hoping for, that to me, that's paramount.
Yep, totally. And I know my camera's kind of coming in, focusing in and out, and maybe I've got a face for radio anyway, so probably it's a good thing that I'm sort of muted right now. So let's wrap it up real quick. Final thoughts. If you had a group of 100 or 1,000 marketers in front of you that wear all of these, what would be your final bit of advice to these folks?
I would do some rapid fire, easy wins. So subject line, right? Use some special characters. Make sure whatever the important thing in your subject line is, have it in the first half of your subject line. Nobody cares. Nobody's reading the second half. So focus on that first half. Start with some numbers. That'll do really well. Your pre-header. It should never be about your offer, your image having, can't load the images. It has to be an extension of your offer, right? So make sure that you are extending on your offer in that pre-header because it's super valuable real estate. Look at your call to action buttons. If they say weird things like download or register, right? That's bad. You want to have a benefit, save my spot. I want in, start my 30-day free trial. Your call to actions can be really big and large and whatever. And then when they get to that destination page, throw on a social proof right near that button where they're going to register, buy, do whatever. Put on one quote. This is the greatest thing. I love it. Put it right near that final button. It gives the person that last vote of confidence and gets them over the hump. So these are little things that can add up to a big difference. And I know I don't shut up. That was rapid fire.
No, that's great. I mean, it's sometimes the little things that can make a huge difference.
Totally.
And sometimes marketers, right, get this thing like, I've got to do everything. And you really, really don't in order to make an impactful difference.
Correct.
But I would also make sure that you have a little mini chart that says, what's the level of effort that I do this? What's the level of effort internally, right? Do I have to jump through hoops? And you know what? It's okay to potentially get in trouble, right? To break the rules a little bit. My advice is that if I had a group of people standing in front of me is, it's okay. You are going to make mistakes. make mistakes that are not catastrophic. We've all done them. Focus in on something, just like you said, Jay, focus in on something that's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. It might be outside the proverbial box. It might be considered heresy in certain stuff. It may not be on within what you've done in your brand for many, many years. Know that there's a lot of people in the same shoes as you guys are, right? Having to do a lot with a little. And know that that other end of that inbox is a human being, not just Andrew Kordek at yahoo.com or gmail.com. They're a human, and treat them as such. And always remember, it's not you that are in charge of your email program, it's them. They're going to be the ones to dictate through their engagement. So make it happen for them. So I'm going to wrap it up with email never sleeps, and the blurred thing that's Andrew. I don't really care. Who cares? It's about content. Jay, dude, it's great. Always great having and speaking with you. You're a wonderful guy. Folks, I'm going to put a plug in personally for Guru. I attended and spoke there last year. It's free, like he said. Man, there was some good stuff last year, and this year is going to be even better.
Awesome.
So thank you, Jay. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody, for continuing to watch Email Never Sleeps.
All right. Thanks for having me, man. Awesome.